So I'm Teralyn. I'm a materials engineer. I went on the 2015-2016 engineering abroad experience. When I was first thinking about going on this experience, I was really not interested because I was taking 16 units in school. I'm like, I don't really have time to go out and live my life. I can do that after I'm done with school. But it was my last year, my last chance at Cabrillo to go on this experience, and so I finally decided with 3 days to spare to finally apply. And I'm so glad I did because I had the most interesting time in Guatemala. Alright, so my first impression when we got to Guatemala is the very first thing we did is we went to a museum. And in the museum we saw a lot of Mayan artifacts, and we saw a scale model of Tikal. It's not technically to scale, the temples are a little further apart than we saw on the board. But it was a good preview of what was to come. That second picture is the view from the school when we went up to Vuelta Grande for the first time. You could see for miles. You could see mountains off in the distance just disappearing into the clear sky. And then this right here is, that third picture is our first dinner at our homestay. Since somebody had a birthday and we got to have a bit of a celebration, so our first night in first night in Antigua was kind of festive. And this was just the first couple of days. When we finally got up to Vuelta Grande, then we had to go and look at all of the work sites to see what exactly we'd have to do because we were kind of short on details when we first got up there. So we went and we had to scope out all the work sites. The first one we were looking at was the work site where we're going to build a small study hut for the school. And so there were hundreds of cinder blocks that we'd have to move about 20 feet to actually get them to the spot where we're going to build the study house. And then we got down to the soccer field, which was our second project, and see that the entire corner of it's completely eroded away. There's a giant hole in the ground where there should be a soccer field. And we had seen pictures of it, but they weren't very good, so finally getting an actual field to scale that project was pretty shocking when we first got there. This picture down here, that middle picture, we're looking at one of the future sites of some of the tanks that we're going to add to the water system, because up in Vuelta Grande, then they're not connected to municipal water, so they have to get it from a spring. And during the time when the spring's not running, then they need somewhere to store the water, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to add some tanks so they can have water during the times of the year when the water's not flowing from the spring. And that last picture, that fourth one, is us looking at some of the old tanks that got installed. I believe those ones were installed last year. And these ones we're going to build up the foundation a little bit because there was a little bit of erosion happening and we didn't want the tanks to tip and fall off the hillside. Alright, we're finally getting to work. The first picture is me pulling some dirt out of the ground because we need to use that dirt to rebuild the foundation under the old tanks. The second picture right here is our assembly line, basically, where we're just trying to pass a bunch of gravel and sand down the hillside to get to the school where we're going to build concrete. And this third picture right here is assembling some PVC pipes for the tanks. A lot of the pieces that we had were really, really small, and we didn't have any curved pipes because PVC is pretty straight. So we had to connect a whole lot of very small pieces of pipe in order to go around this big round tank. Alright, aside from what we did in Vuelta Grande, yes, can you feel the love of people? This middle picture is a picture of what happened at our Mayan experience. We went to see some Mayan ladies who shared a little bit about their culture, shared about how they make cloth, about how they make tortillas. They gave us some pretty good food. And Jose and Amanda got married. It was Carl's fault.
Thank you, Carl.
But it was a very interesting experience. I don't think this is not something that I would ever have expected to do when I first signed up for the trip, but I'm glad it happened because I was definitely expanding my view of the world. Okay. And then this first picture right here is Temple 1 when we went to Tikal, the Great Jaguar. We learned a lot about some of the architecture when we went to Crill, for example. Some of the restoration that they're doing to build the temples that are eroding and getting destroyed by the weather. They made brand new limestone and put it on the old temples. But because the new limestone wasn't fully cured, then it actually started to eat away at the old limestone, and they were destroying the temples and they were trying to rebuild them. And that was a pretty interesting thing about the architecture that we learned. And this third picture right here is we're on a boat on Lake Atitlan, traveling to San Antonio. And while we were on the boat, then you could see from miles across the lake to the other side, this lake is actually the remnant of a supervolcano. And so it was pretty impressive to be sitting in the middle of an old extinct volcano. Alright, some of the last things that we did on our final days was that a couple new projects came up. That first picture is me and Nick standing next to some handiwork that we did with the plumbing behind the urinals. After the urinals were no longer working, then we had to go back there and find out why, and we found some broken pipes, but we had no extra pipe to fix it with. So we had to use extra pieces from old projects to try and put together, and as you can see, we had to get kind of creative with how to put these pieces together.
Whatever gets the job done.
Yeah, we did. That fourth picture is, we're trying to finish up the foundation for the tanks up on top of the hillside, because we wanted to make sure that they didn't tip off and slide down the hill. So we had to move a bunch of dirt and tamp it down and squash it into place in order to put new tanks on top of it. A center top picture, we had a little bit of free time on the very last day, so we decided to paint a mural. Unfortunately, we used acrylic paint, which is not the best option for a large scale project like this. It sticks to everything except what you're trying to paint. And then this picture right in the center bottom, something interesting happened. On the day after we went to San Antonio, then one of the spigots for their water system actually broke off, and the upper tanks that had been installed last year drained pretty much completely. So their water system was empty, except for the 3 brand new tanks that we had installed below the break. So the village still had water even though their water system broke while we were gone. Here's a few of the pictures from our very last day. I'm sure you're familiar with this picture up here by now. This is the mural that we finally finished. It says, Trabajando juntos para un mundo mejor, which means working together for a better world. That was the last bit of a mark that we made on this village. Second picture is the 3 old tanks next to the 2 new tanks that we installed on the upper storage area, because and the reason it's repair and recycle is because those 2 tanks were actually already at the village, but they were hooked up to a water catchment system that wasn't filling them anymore, so we moved them to the main line. This picture right down here, that's the finished, completed soccer field. It looks pretty smooth, but like we mentioned earlier, then it's all been regraded completely so that it doesn't erode anymore. This is the spigot right next to the 3 new tanks that we installed, that we finally hooked up to them. As you can see, it's working now. It's providing water to the village. And then this last picture right here is the edge of the soccer field, the corner that was completely gone. That giant hole in the ground is now a brand new scaled mountain. We spent a lot of time working on that right there. We had to walk up and down on the slope for several hours because the tractor couldn't drive over it. So the thing that I really took away from this whole entire experience is that you really shouldn't put off living your life just to do some school. It was a great opportunity for me to live my life while I was in school and get a brand new experience while I was doing it.